Here's my review of Under the Bridge. I think that this is a pretty good show, and I think that if you like true crime shows and movies, that you should definitely check this out. And this particular true crime is quite disturbing, this is about the murder of, or disappearance murder of a little girl. Well, little, she's like 14, of a girl named Rena Verk. And this whole story in this whole show, I think, it is exactly what you'd expect for a show like this. It is very depressing. It is very dramatic. So, don't go into the show wanting to have fun, because it's not a fun show. It is a very interesting show. A lot of this actually has to do with the dynamic of Cam and Rebecca, where Cam is trying to figure out this murder, who's the cop, trying to figure out this murder the legal way, and Rebecca is trying to do it more personally, talking with the girls one-on-one. And it is very interesting. And I think with a show like this, it really relies on our main leads of Lily Gladstone and Riley Keough to be as interesting and as good as they are. Because if not, it would just be a lot of talking. It is, but because we have such great actresses at the helm of this show, it makes it a lot more enjoyable to watch. And also, this whole show, all these main girls are just the worst, and you just hate them so much. And you should, because they're awful people, because they literally are responsible for just, killing this girl. And it's, especially, Josephine, she's just the worst. But they all are terrible. All of these girls, for the most part, there is, one girl who's, less bad than other. She's also the worst. They all are terrible. And it's so sickening, because you're seeing then they'll pretend that they were, good friends with this girl when you were just, not racist, terrible to her. You are psychopathic killers. And it is just, it's a kind of crime show where you just, the main characters are following outside of the two, leads, cop and the investigator and the reporter, who's writing a book, are all terrible. I was Dusty's not that bad. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. She's probably the least terrible of all the girls. But I think that this whole show, there's a lot of nuance to it. And it's another one of those shows where I feel like I've seen a lot of shows where it's when, she comes back to this town, when Rebecca comes back to this town, it's got that whole thing of oh, I tried to leave everything about this town behind me. It feels I've seen that so many times. Maybe it just felt generic to me, because I feel like I've always seen that, whether it's in a movie or show about this person has to go back to what they used to do, and it's specifically a town. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I've seen so many shows like that in TV and movies. But other than that, it was pretty good. So yeah, that's the thing, especially when I'm always discussing stuff that are true stories, shows like this, there's not really particularly much to talk about. It's not necessarily a lot of the same for each episode, but it is interesting because we're learning a lot about these different girls who are responsible for these terrible crimes. And it's we still hate them, but it's interesting because we still learn more about them. And I think that because of that, it still makes you still hate them, but you still find them more interesting. You still want to learn more. And there's a lot of other extra stuff in this show as well. There's this whole other kind of mini subplot how Cam and Rebecca used to date each other, and then it kind of doesn't really go anywhere. So it just feels kind of weird. It's there for an episode or two, and then it's just gone. So it seems kind of weird. But yeah, I think if you like true crime, if you like this kind of stuff, you'll like this show. But I will say, in terms of other maybe true crime series I've watched or movies or just true stories, I wouldn't say it's as compelling as some of the other ones I've seen. But it was still quite good. It's exactly what you'd expect, and everything is done very well here. But I wouldn't really say it's mind-blowing, but I would say if you watch the trailer, thought that looks interesting, you will like this show.